Hello YouTube! In this episode of Shadow Reviews, I am going to be reviewing the animated film Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker, one of the greatest parts of the dcau. In the first scene after the opening credits, Bruce Wayne shows off his skills with not only a batarang, but one of the futuristic batarangs that Terry uses on a nightly basis, showing that even though Bruce is 70, 80 years old at this point in time, he could still be Batman, and that his skills have never truly faded. Terry returns to the cave, and he and Bruce talk about how a robbery like this isn't the Joker's style, and that they're probably working for someone. Then Terry directs Bruce's attention to a news report about him. Basically, this reporter is going over how Bruce Wayne has taken back control of his family's company and will go back to running it. But not everyone is happy about Bruce Wayne's return. In this part of, right before Bruce turns the computer off, we are introduced to Jordan Price, who was next in line to run the company until he found out Bruce Wayne was coming back. And I gotta admit, this movie does one hell of a job at making this guy the red herring. The guys who wrote this went out of their way to make this guy seem like he was gonna do something to kill Bruce Wayne indirectly, i.e. setting up a fake accident that he thinks would kill Bruce Wayne. And in any other movie, it would look that way until Bruce shows up at the end, and Jordan Price ends up getting arrested. But I've actually heard other reviewers say that the minute they saw this guy, they instantly assumed he was going to be the Joker. And then he says that running an international conglomerate would be stressful even for a young man, even though he himself doesn't really feel like it would be a challenge. Anyways, after the scene with Terry and Dana at a nightclub, we then cut to the actual Joker berating the Jokers as they weren't able to steal enough for his plan because Batman intervened. And this guy, who's a member of the Jokers, is kind of annoyed that the real Joker's plan that he had not told them yet requires all this stuff, and that they're not stealing any money, and threatens to quit. In response, the Joker shoots him, scaring the rest of the gang into submission. We then cut to the big welcome back party that Wayne Enterprises is throwing for Bruce. As the man of the hour, Bruce basically gives this big speech to show what a great man he is, and that he'll be an excellent boss who looks forward to getting to know every one of his employees. And then we get the title card. Okay, and after that we cut to Bruce Wayne and his trusty guard dog Ace. In the first scene after the opening credits, Bruce Wayne shows off his skills with not only a batarang, but one of the futuristic batarangs that Terry uses on a nightly basis, showing that even though Bruce is 70, 80 years old at this point in time, he could still be Batman, and that his skills have never truly faded. Terry returns to the cave, and he and Bruce talk about how a robbery like this isn't the Joker's style, and that they're probably working for someone. Then Terry directs Bruce's attention to a news report about him. Basically, this reporter is going over how Bruce Wayne has taken back control of his family's company and will go back to running it. But not everyone is happy about Bruce Wayne's return. In this part of, right before Bruce turns the computer off, we are introduced to Jordan Price, who was next in line to run the company until he found out Bruce Wayne was coming back. And I gotta admit, this movie does one hell of a job at making this guy the red herring. The guys who wrote this went out of their way to make this guy seem like he was gonna do something to kill Bruce Wayne indirectly, i.e. setting up a fake accident that he thinks would kill Bruce Wayne, and in any other movie it would look that way until Bruce shows up at the end and Jordan Price ends up getting arrested. But I've actually heard other reviewers say that the minute they saw this guy, they instantly assumed he was going to be the Joker. And then he says that running an international conglomerate would be stressful even for a young man, even though he himself doesn't really feel like it would be a challenge. Anyways, after the scene with Terry and Dana at a nightclub, we then cut to the actual Joker berating the Jokers as they weren't able to steal enough for his plan because Batman intervened. And this guy, who's a member of the Jokers, is kind of annoyed that the real Joker's plan that he had not told them yet requires all this stuff and that they're not stealing any money, and threatens to quit. In response, the Joker shoots him, scaring the rest of the gang into submission. We then cut to the big welcome back party that Wayne Enterprises is throwing for Bruce. As the man of the hour, Bruce basically gives this big speech to show what a great man he is, and that he'll be an excellent boss who looks forward to getting to know every one of his employees. When suddenly the Joker gang shows up and crashes Bruce's party, Terry asks Bruce if he'll be alright. Bruce just tells him to get to work, which is code for slip into the suit, I'll keep them distracted. But then Bruce is in for the mother of all surprises when he sees the Joker himself show up. Something that, to his knowledge, should not be possible. Batman Beyond then swoops in. The Joker criticizes the new Batman for not being 100% like Bruce Wayne, and then sends one of his henchmen at him. As it turns out, the device that the Joker gang failed to steal at the beginning of the movie, well, as it turns out, Wayne Enterprises just happened to have one, and they intended on stealing it as the Joker himself crashed Bruce Wayne's welcome back party. The Joker and his gang make their big escape, and to make sure they won't be followed, the Joker detonates explosives that he had his henchmen place right underneath the rooftop, because he knows that if this Batman is anything like the one he used to fight, which he is, he'll save the innocent civilians rather than waste time chasing after him. On the way back to Wayne Manor, Bruce and Terry talk, and Terry gives a list of theories as to how this could all be happening, one of which is actually an allusion to Captain America when he guesses that maybe the Joker was frozen in an ice block and was floating around somewhere for decades. We then cut to a man watching a news report about what just happened at Bruce Wayne's coming back party. As it turns out, this is Tim Drake, the former Robin. We then cut to Police Commissioner Barbara Gordon, who receives a visit from Terry McGinnis, who asks her about the Joker, and she is not entertaining the idea that this man is the real Joker. She's convinced that he's an imposter and tells Terry to drop it. And although Terry is by no means taking this seriously, Barbara demands that this is something to be taken very seriously and tells him to leave. Okay, so then we transition to the Batcave, where Bruce is running a vocal scan to see if this could really be the actual Joker. And the Bat computer says that it's an identical match. And then Terry walks in and questions Bruce about the Joker. And while talking, he assumes that Bruce killed him, which is not out of the realm of possibility, as this film is a tie-in to a show that was meant to promote a movie in which, well, the sequel to a movie where Batman had actually killed the Joker. So, because when he asks if Bruce is sure, Bruce tells him that he was there when the Joker died. Terry thinks his assumption is right, and that's when Bruce tells him that to return the suit and he needs to essentially give up being Batman. And while asking Bruce not to make this decision, Terry actually admits to him that during the part of his life where his parents were going through the divorce, he basically fell in with a bad crowd and actually spent time in juvie. And to him, being Batman is his way of redeeming himself for some of the bad things he did. But Bruce is kinda set on Terry retiring as Batman. So Terry throws his backpack to the ground, the bat suit falls out of it, and he runs out of the cave. So, after some pointless banter about Terry getting his family life back together, 'cause he's not, well, sleeping in or staying at Wayne Manor, he basically goes and sees his girlfriend Dana at a nightclub, and she gets grabbed by one of the Jokers. Then we transition to the Batcave, where Bruce is making a new batch of Joker antitoxin. So anyways, Ace then starts barking, indicating that there's an intruder in the Batcave. Ace runs up into Wayne Manor and gets seriously hurt when a smoke bomb filled with Joker gas lands in the cave. Bruce is able to dodge, and he makes his way towards the table where he had the antitoxin for the Joker virus, and then he gets attacked by the Joker. While searching for Dana at the nightclub, Terry is then attacked by the Jokers, and then one of the Joker's goons throws Dana off of a platform. Terry does save her, but she gets hurt in the process. The Joker's flunkies begin to fire, which causes Terry to just grab Dana and evacuate. Terry leaves Dana with his friend Chelsea, while he intends to go off alone and fight off the Joker's flunkies. So anyways, Terry jumps on this massive lava lamp, pushes it over, and when it breaks open, a bunch of liquid creates this massive tidal wave that flushes most of the Joker's flunkies out of the building, except for one that Terry then punches out. So anyways, after Dana was sent to the hospital in an ambulance, Terry rushes to Wayne Manor on his motorcycle and calls Bruce using a microphone in the helmet, and actually gets worried when he gets the answering machine. Terry runs into Wayne Manor and finds Ace injured on the floor, and then looks forward to see that the entrance to the Batcave had been torn open. he runs down to see that the Batcave had been trashed with the words "ha ha ha" written all over the place. Dashes through the cave in terror and looking for Bruce, who he finds at the Bat computer after the Joker had infected Bruce with the Joker toxin. After Terry checks Bruce's pulse and his heart, he realizes he's still alive. Since Bruce was the original Batman, his willpower is more than strong enough to tell Terry where the antidote is. With no one else to turn to, Terry calls Commissioner Barbara Gordon and more or less demands to know what's going on. As Terry helps Ace recover, he sees a news bulletin that Jordan Price appears in, which really does a very good job of convincing you, the viewer, that this guy it does a really good job of convincing you that he's the Joker, or would be revealed to be a Joker imposter, a clone of the Joker, or somehow the Joker's son. When Terry questions Barbara for the final time in the film, saying that the Joker gang knew who he was, she basically cracks and gives him the answers he wants. And then Barbara says the original Joker is dead, and then we get the scene that made this movie as famous as it is. The Batman the Animated Series flashback, where Robin thought he heard a woman in trouble, but it was actually Harley Quinn luring him into a trap. Batman and Batgirl realized that Robin was missing, and for 3 weeks were up constantly, day and night, trying to find out where he could possibly be. And then when those weeks were up, they actually get a message telling them where to go. Arkham. In her narration, Barbara mentions that, Arkham was eventually shut down temporarily, and all the inmates were relocated to a new and improved Arkham with higher security and less of a chance that they'd be able to escape. And it is just so awesome how Batman drives there at breakneck speed and slams through the gates with the Batmobile. Batman kicks the door open, and he and Batgirl walk in. They more or less find Joker and Harley essentially playing house. After questioning them about Robin, not getting much of anything, and basically going near a curtain, Harley Quinn then tries to restrain Batman by firing this weird ribbon thing at him that holds him down. Something that Batman could get out of at any time, but then signals to Batgirl to stay hidden, or they could actually end up hurting Robin. Joker goes on this big spiel about how they've been doing this for years and how he and Harley don't have a kid. Joker pulls back the curtains, revealing Tim Drake, Robin, who had been driven insane and warped into the Joker's image. Seeing this makes Batman snap, bust out of that whatever it was Harley Quinn fired at him to hold him down, throws a knife at the Joker's head, which Joker was able to dodge. After Batman ran off chasing the Joker to essentially give him the ass-kicking of a lifetime, Batgirl then swings down and attacks Harley Quinn. Barbara tries to get through to Tim, but she has zero luck. Batman continues to chase the Joker, and apparently the Joker and Harley Quinn messed Robin up so badly that he's willing to help them now, even though Batman and Batgirl are here. The Batgirl versus Harley Quinn fight continues, with Batgirl smacking Harley Quinn around like a piñata, forcing Harley Quinn to retreat out of the building and into the rain. And when she then asks Harley how she could have just stood by and let Joker do this, Harley actually tries to justify it by claiming she'd make it right by being the mother figure in Robin's life. Harley was then about to throw a broken off piece of one of the floors, or a broken off piece of the roof, at Batgirl when Robin shows up with her bazooka. He throws it, she catches it, and then she fires at Batgirl several times, unable to hit her, causing Harley to drop the bazooka as it instantly fires at them. It hit, and even though Batgirl made it out completely unharmed and was able to climb to safety, Harley supposedly fell to her death. Meanwhile, Batman is hunting down the Joker in the operating theater, where Joker taunts him, hits the lights, and basically shows an actual film, a silent film, of the nights where he had Robin captive and essentially tortured the Boy Wonder to the point of insanity. And yeah, he interrogated Tim Drake and knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. He got this information, like I said before, by torturing Robin to the point of insanity. And yeah, the Joker mentioned serums and shocks, meaning, well, I don't really have to spell it out. They show it from Batman's point of view, or at least they angle on him, and with the horrified look on his face, it's more than obvious that what the Joker did to get Robin to give up Batman's secret identity, as well as his own and Batgirl's, and probably Nightwing's, would not have flown if what he did to Robin wouldn't have flown if we actually saw it. It's heavily implied that what the Joker did essentially amounts to torturing this kid to the point of insanity. The Joker then taunts Batman about how he knows who he really is, and mocks the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne, which at this point, Batman goes through his breaking point, crashes into where the projector is, and beats the crap out of the Joker. Batman then throws the Joker into the operations theater. I think that's what that room was called. Slams him up against these giant building blocks here with his hand around the Joker's throat and threatens to kill him. Joker pulls out a knife and stabs Batman, slashing him across the chest, and then stabs him in the leg, sending Batman crashing to the floor. The Joker then taunts Batman and tosses a gun over to Robin, and then tells him to use it to shoot Batman. But then, just as Tim is about to shoot Batman, he suddenly undergoes some kind of breakdown and is completely confused, unsure on which person to shoot. And after hesitating, he then shoots the Joker. Batgirl runs into the room, and Tim starts crying. The flashback scene ends with Tim being comforted by Batman and Batgirl, as Barbara Gordon once again narrates, saying that she told her father, the original Commissioner Gordon, about what happened, and he promised to essentially cover all of this up and keep what happened a secret. Cut back to Wayne Manor, and Terry asks a few questions, if Harley Quinn was ever found, and which Barbara says that they never found a body, and he asks what happened to Tim Drake, which Barbara responds by telling him that they turned him over to Leslie Tompkins, who was a friend of Thomas and Martha Wayne. It took her a year, but she was able to help Tim back to sanity. And she tells him that Bruce blamed himself for what happened that night and forbid Tim from ever becoming Robin again. She apparently checks up on Tim from time to time, but then Terry says that Tim Drake has the most likely connection to that night. We then cut to Tim Drake working on a satellite, who then tells Batman Beyond to to turn off his cloaking device, because he actually did hear him show up. Well, earlier in the movie, it was established that Bruce's training was so good that his skills haven't faded even after all this time. And apparently that applies to his final sidekick. They talk about recent events, the return of the Joker, the siege on Wayne Manor, and then he tells him that he secretly dreamed of one day being Batman, i.e. Bruce naming him as his successor, and then he ends up just saying that Bruce might as well have been doing him a favor by forcing him to retire, as well as telling the Dark Knight of the future that he'll eventually have to make the same decision. We then transition to a Wayne Enterprises submarine, where Jordan Price walks into a room expecting to be met with who I can only assume was a prostitute, but turn out to be the Didi twins and the rest of the Jokers. When Batman then flies up to the yacht, and using the space-age tech in the Beyond Batsuit, Batman is able to record the conversation between Jordan Price and the Jokers, where he admits that he gave them the security codes to ransack the lab, and that he actually was okay with Bruce Wayne potentially being killed. Jordan Price thought his business with the Jokers was complete, but the Jokers apparently are on the yacht to kill him because the original Joker thinks that he's a loose end. Jordan is then handcuffed to a table when the Dark Knight of the future crashes in through the window to save the vice president of Wayne Enterprises. As the Jokers are making their big escape, Batman notices that there's a giant laser that's about to blow up the yacht. Batman rescues Jordan Price and flies out of the yacht. Just as said laser hits the yacht, blowing it completely out of the water and into tiny pieces. After landing, Batman turns Jordan Price over to the GCPD and plays the recording for them of Price essentially admitting to working with the Jokers, letting them ransack Wayne Enterprise Laboratories, allowing them to steal both technology and weapons, and the fact that he would have been okay if they had killed Bruce Wayne. Jordan Price demands to see his lawyer. The one cop salutes Batman as he then flies off into the night. We then transition to the Batcave, where Terry is at the Batcomputer trying to find a lead on the Joker, but every lead he had has gone dry. But as Terry is doubting himself, Bruce Wayne enters, telling him that being Batman isn't as easy as he made it look all those years ago. Bruce Wayne tells Terry that he feels like crap, and it's why he didn't want him going up against the Joker, even if it was an imposter. And Terry replies by saying he was never a Robin. But when he says that, he notices that the Robin costume was torn up and almost ripped to shreds, even though every other suit in the memorial, well, not memorial, but array of costumes is completely intact. And then he remembers what Tim Drake said to him. He said that Bruce did him a favor by making him hang up the Robin suit, and that he was completely sick of it and never wanted to see it again. Terry then comes to the conclusion that Tim Drake is the Joker, as he actually says that this was the only outfit the Joker went out of his way to destroy, and that Tim Drake hates it way more than the Joker. And this kind of makes sense, as Terry McGinnis has no personal connection to Tim Drake, but Bruce Wayne does, and this is something Bruce Wayne might overlook because he wouldn't want to believe that it's true. Or at least part of him wouldn't want to believe that his last sidekick more or less has finally snapped and taken on the identity of their greatest nemesis. Probably because Bruce feels guilty that this happened to Tim Drake. After all, what happened to Tim Drake as a kid, well, what the Joker did to him, he did to get to Bruce. But Terry actually goes on saying that he did talk to Tim Drake, and yeah, that's kind of how he knows that this man hates the Robin suit more than the Joker does. Bruce and Terry make a list of all the devices that they know the Joker stole and had the Batcomputer combine them into something that would be used by a communications expert like Tim Drake. What the Batcomputer came up with was a satellite jamming system. The kind that would be powerful enough to jam, hack, and or take control of any satellite orbiting Earth. Like, for instance, one equipped with a laser. One that would be on par with the laser that the Joker tried to use to kill Jordan Price and more or less take him out of the equation altogether. Bruce accepts the obvious fact and tells Terry to suit up, but Terry then tells him he's gonna need to bring something with him. Batman then sneaks into a satellite lab and confronts Tim Drake. Stating that he knows that this guy is the connection to the Joker. But the Dark Knight of the future is not getting a response. but it turns out to only be a hologram. A laser bar security defense system is then triggered, seemingly locking the Dark Knight of the Future inside. The Joker then appears on a monitor, taunting Batman and saying that Tim Drake is working for him now. Joker then tells Batman his plan of how he intends to hack a military defense satellite and more or less blow up several parts of Neo-Gotham City to let people know that it's Joker territory. I was watching the DVD commentary today, and apparently the man who animated this scene also animated scenes from the anime movie Akira. So anyways, then the Joker tries to keep Batman from leaving by activating a series of laser turrets that would fire if he tries to leave. But just by hurling enough batarangs, he found a way to de-arm the turrets. Batman leaves, hops in the Batmobile, and flies off. After doing so, he tracks down the Joker's whereabouts, and yeah, it becomes obvious that the Joker's hiding out in the abandoned Jolly Jack candy factory. Batman is trying to contact Bruce Wayne to send him the data and have Commissioner Gordon send all her men to surround the Jolly Jack candy factory, the abandoned one. But the Joker then hacked into the comlinks and attempts to use the laser to vaporize the Batmobile. And surprise, surprise, it doesn't work, as Batman's able to outmaneuver every shot. One of the Jokers is able to actually hit the Batmobile with a bazooka, bringing it down, but it crashes through the tower that the idiot clown was standing on, and sends him falling onto a crate. Batman jumps out of the Batmobile, ready for a fight. Wolf steps up, and then we actually see who Batman Beyond brought with him. And that would be Ace, Bruce Wayne's attack dog. Oh boy, does Ace ever do a number on that spliced retard. Ghoul tries to get Batman from behind, but Batman takes him down with one punch. Up next are the Didi twins. All it took for Batman to bring down these two idiots was to turn on his cloaking device and dump a box of gumballs in their direction and watch them trip over their own feet. Batman enters, sees Tim Drake lying on the floor, and runs up to him. And when Batman demands that Tim Drake tell him where the Joker is, he denies having anything to do with this, and eventually the topic of his childhood trauma comes up. But when he calls Batman Beyond Terry, it turns out that, well, everything they just saw was nothing more than an act. Tim Drake then throws something onto Batman Beyond, which then electrocutes him, and then begins speaking to Bruce as he knows that he's listening in on this and can see everything that's going on, as he then begins laughing insanely and transforms directly into the Joker in front of both Terry and Bruce. The Joker then explains that he's not Tim Drake, but in fact he's a digital clone of the Joker that is inside of a microchip, obviously something he was able to obtain during the events of the first Justice League cartoon, as he states that it was government technology that he stole and modified. And then the Joker explains how this whole thing could have happened without nobody becoming suspicious, or without Tim Drake getting committed to an insane asylum. He mentions that at first he could only stay in Tim Drake's body for short periods, but he's getting stronger, and soon he'll be able to possess the former Boy Wonder permanently. And also he explains that Tim is completely unaware because he's been chalking up any thoughts that this digital Joker clone has to bad dreams, because for an entire year Tim Drake was, for all intents and purposes, crazy. And this is how you explain something like this actually happening without someone like Batman, the world's greatest detective, or Barbara Gordon, who he trained, becoming suspicious or of anything like this possibly happening in the future. Then, just for the purpose of pissing off Batman Beyond, the Joker makes it clear that he could use the satellite to blow up the hospital that Dana's at, or vaporize the home of Terry's mom and brother, but decides the first place that he'd vaporize here and now would be Wayne Manor, knowing that Bruce would not be able to make it out. And then Batman has Ace attack the Joker. Ace then breaks the electronic restraint that was holding Batman down, and then the Joker strikes down Ace with an electronic joy buzzer. But just before the Joker is about to finish Ace off, Batman intervenes and saves Bruce Wayne's attack dog while sending the electric joy buzzer directly into well, into a place where it's gonna fry the circuits of the computer and redirect the beam that would be fired by the satellite back at, well, fire it at the Jolly Jack Candy Factory. Batman and the Joker fight, and it looks like the Joker's getting the upper hand, but then Batman locks them both in, and the fight continues. Now, this final fight is good, and it is the climax of the movie that is the number 2 choice on this list. And now I'm going to tell you every reason as to why it's so good. Now, a lot of this comes from the DVD commentary. And like the people who made this movie said, Terry is a punk. And the thing is, the Joker expects him to fight in the exact same way that Bruce did. But Terry is not Bruce. As you see, Bruce was good enough of a fighter to never have to need to knee the Joker in the crotch. The bulk of people who fought the Earth-12 Joker prior to this movie had been superheroes for more than a year. Batman Beyond has, at the most, only been active for half a year at this point. And this is something I did hear on the internet, but this was the key to him winning. Like I said, all those other heroes, they had been active for more than a year and listened to Bruce Wayne more, and by that I mean they took his words more seriously, and by extent, took the Joker more seriously. Now, as the fight goes on, he keeps telling the Joker that he isn't funny. Now, I'm sure that, I'm certain that there had been episodes from Batman the Animated Series where Batman told the Joker that he wasn't funny. Like those other heroes, Batman took the Joker seriously. But Batman Beyond finds a new way to defeat him, and that's by treating him like a joke. The prior Batman would have just told the Joker he's not funny and leave it at that. But Batman Beyond takes a different approach. He basically starts heckling the Joker, telling him the reason he was so obsessed with his predecessor was because he could never get a laugh out of him, and points out that the prior Batman had no sense of humor. Anyone who's read the comic book Batman Mad Love would know that the Earth-12 Joker, his greatest fear is that he's not funny. And Batman Beyond really uses that to his advantage, as he constantly pounds it in that the Joker was never funny. He had no good jokes. And that's how he's able to get the upper hand. It gets so bad that the Joker tries to escape the building and run away. Because well, because this is the one thing he just can't stand. The idea he's not funny, and the idea of Batman, of all people, being the one to heckle him. The Joker starts throwing bombs, which sends Batman Beyond down to the ground. The Joker pins the Dark Knight of the Future down and begins strangling him. But then Terry pulls the electric joy buzzer that the Joker had earlier and rams it right into his neck, frying the microchip that had the digital Joker clone inside of it, overloading it and destroying it, effectively ending the Joker's reign of terror once and for all. Tim Drake returns to normal and gets his body back. Using one of the Joker's bombs, Batman Beyond blows the door open so he, Ace, and Tim can get out of the building right before the Jolly Jack candy factory is destroyed by that laser. The one that the Joker was going to use to blow up Wayne Manor. We then transition over to the Didi twins, who are, well, their grandmother showed up to pay their bail. As it turns out, their grandmother is an elderly Harleen Quinzel, and this was a scene that the creators of the movie thought needed to be in there since everything prior had been so dark. So then, as Tim Drake is in the hospital, he's visited by Barbara Gordon and Terry McGinnis. Terry then just looks at Tim and says, "We met the other night," which is code for "I'm Batman Beyond." And Tim then responds by telling him that Bruce couldn't have picked a better successor. And this is coming from Tim Drake, the third Robin. Terry acknowledges this as the honor it is when he tells him that it means everything coming from him. Terry then runs into Bruce Wayne just as he steps out of Tim Drake's hospital room. And before he steps into the hospital room to speak to the last sidekick that he had in almost 40 years, he tells Terry that he makes Batman worthwhile. Batman doesn't make him worthwhile. And the film ends with Terry McGinnis standing over Neo-Gotham City, putting the cowl on and flying off into the night. And that was Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. In all fairness, this is the second greatest animated Batman movie ever made.